Okay, we are live with COVID Marketing episode number 23, the show to support small biz, not just to survive, but to thrive. Week daily at 11:11 Eastern Standard Time. If you have questions on marketing, business, or, well, whatever, let us know in the comments wherever you find folk are seeing this. I am Brent Kobayashi, president of Kobayashi Zeitgeist, a marketing agency here in Toronto, Canada. I have with me Mr. Arthur Tutt, of course.
Hello.
And with us, a special guest, Neville Pokroy. Neville, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Brent. Nice to be here.
Yes, so good to have you. So just a very quick introduction to Neville. I've known Neville 3 years now.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, so
time flies when you're having fun, hey?
Oh my gosh, or yes, and we have been having fun. So Neville and I have been chatting. Neville is a marketing strategist. He goes a little ways back, and with a lot of experience. I've been so super impressed by what he brings to the table in terms of marketing strategy, brand strategy, some of the experience that he's had, some of the launches that he's done. So I thought no better person than to have on and talk about what people can do in this interesting day and age than you, Mr. Neville. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, interesting times. I don't think, yeah, I think you hinted at my age there, Brent, but you know, people tell me I look younger than I am. So, you know, I'm hoping that's true. But yeah, I talk about times we've never seen before, and in my recollection, we've never seen times like this. And yes, people are saying, you know, we've never seen times like this since 9/11, which was a much shorter period. But and the next time they refer to this as the Second World War, you know. So yeah, things. These are days that we're going to remember for many, many years, and tell our grandkids and our great grandkids about the days that pandemic hit and we were locked up at home.
Yeah. And it's weird. I mean, it is really weird. And I mean, with this show, we kind of talk about marketing and strategy and all this stuff. And I want to get into that in a bit, but is there anything in particular that has struck you as particularly strange, either uplifting or concerning? Oh, I'm beeping again. Hold on, let me turn off my beeping.
Should we go live again?
Dismiss. Okay, we are no longer beeping. So yeah, Neville, anything in particular that struck you as interesting, different than you expected?
Everything, literally everything. I think our experiences today in today's world is going to be and really are unlike anything else that we've ever experienced in the past. And I think we're all in our own way writing a new chapter in our books, a chapter that's never written before. We have no point of reference for what that chapter could look like, and every one of our chapters are going to be different. But there will be a big book for us to look at one day when, you know, we go on the internet and we see what people wrote about, videoed about, sang about, experienced, and it's going to be incredibly interesting. You know, I've always been a person that that embraces change, and for me, fortunately, in the work I do, I work from home, and so for me, it hasn't been a huge change, other than not being able to go face to face with clients. I still can go face to face with technology like this, but it's still very, very different. You know, you can't experience the same sense of understanding body language and stuff like that. But it's going to be new. It's going to be different. It's going to be a changed environment. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting, because I think what has happened, you know, forgive me for being a little philosophical, I think God has told us, go to your bedroom and stay in your room until you've realized what you've done. And when you've worked that out, then you can come out and we'll see if you've learned anything from it. And so, that's the way I see this whole experience is Mother Earth waking up and saying, what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? If you can't work it out, maybe I'll point you in a few directions. But right now, it's bedroom time, and think about what you did. How many of us have done this to our kids?
So we're all on timeout.
Yeah, this is your timeout, and it's been coming a long time. And I think God has said enough's enough now. Go to your room.
So continue on with that analogy, because I kind of love that analogy. What I find interesting, and this is something that starts to move us into the marketing conversation, or at least how we communicate online now these days. And that is, there's a heck of a lot of people who are saying, I don't want to go to my room. I'm walking out. I'm getting together with people. I don't want to do this. And I know that paints real people in a bad picture. And I don't mean to do that, because those are real people having real experiences, whatever it is. And what I feel like is interesting about your analogy is, unlike parents whom, maybe you can work your way into like, okay, you can stay up an extra half hour late because I'm just so exhausted. Just go for it, right? This one feels like you come out of your room too early. That's okay. Just gonna die. Or more people are going to, and this is just going to continue on. This is like the most firm, like, dispassionate, like there's consequences. You can do what you want, but there are consequences. Go for it. So yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, and I think that's a reflection of the stakes that we're playing for, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think the stakes in this game is significantly higher than your kids time out for 2 minutes and then come and tell me what you did wrong, and can you rationalize it, can you understand it, can you learn from it, and all of those kinds of things. But I think when you're playing for the kind of stakes we are, I think there's a song, you've got to be cruel to be kind, right? I don't know if you've heard that. And that's always been like an anthem in my mind all the time, is that sometimes you need to take the hard decisions in order to help people change course. And the same applies in business at a very different level. But the same applies. You can't always continue down the track and assume that you're going to get a different outcome. Because if you continue doing the same things, you're going to get the same outcome. But in actual fact, that outcome may not be identical. It may be worse than your previous outcome. And if it continues to get worse, my partner is a finance guy, and he says, he makes an analogy between companies that are in trouble. And a lot of times companies get into trouble because of the things they do, right? It's always easy to point fingers, but when you do that, you've got to realize you've got 3 pointing at yourself. And so he says, the first thing you've got to stop doing is stop digging the hole. Stop digging. First thing you've got to do is stop doing what you were doing that got you into the situation. And so that takes some thought, because you can stop digging, but if you're not thinking about why you dug the hole or why something has happened, you're not going to find the solution. And I've always felt that in the whole philosophy of my life, decisions should not come before thought. And a lot of people, and our world has moved, and Brett, you and I have spoken about this philosophy many times, about a whole sort of Nike mentality of just do it. Well, sometimes just do it can get you into trouble. And if you just thought a little bit before you did it, you wouldn't necessarily get into that kind of trouble. Now, there are times where instincts come in and you just do it. But, particularly in business, you make a wrong decision just because you just did it. That could have serious impact on the outcomes for you. And I find people are in so much of a rush right now to make those decisions that perhaps this is giving you a little bit of time when you're sent to your room. You can think about things before you make those decisions. And so I like the analogy of what I mentioned earlier, because it's giving everybody food for thought rather than permission to continue just doing it. I think that's a dangerous strategy in everything you do, but there are times for it, not all the time.
It strikes me when you're saying that, what strikes me is this sort of thought that people think of a recession as a bad thing. Oh no, a recession's coming up. A normal recession, I don't know what this is going to really be. If there is even, I'm just going to put it out there, we don't know, right? I think everybody feels like it is, and then it becomes definitely a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it seems like there's no way we can do anything but contract, and I agree with that. But contract doesn't mean 100% across the board. That's number one, okay? So when you look at a recession as, we were really excited and we were just doing it and we're growing and we're investing and we're going really long in terms of debt or whatever it happens to be. A recession is kind of a opportunity to say, whoa, hold on a second. You got really excited, pull back a little bit, reassess all the different things you're doing. Now's a really good time to think about that. One thing I would like to ask you though, because this is a belief I have. When you talk about stop digging, to me, that can be stop digging that hole where you were so reliant on a certain channel, a certain way of doing things, because part of it, and on reflection, may be, oh, I don't have a brand that really speaks to what I am, and people don't love me. They buy me because, whatever, pure convenience. I happen to be there at the time. They're not necessarily going to become a return customer. All of these different things happen. And so for me, stop digging can mean go forth and do things. I think personally right now, this is a time for getting out there and getting visible.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think when I say stop digging, it's when you dig yourself a hole, the further you dig, the harder it is to get out of the hole. So I think what you're really saying is it's a time for a reflection and a time for action, but not just a time for action, because if your action is wrong, it has greater negative impact on you. And so I do think that this time is a time for reflection. I have seen with people I've spoken to, with clients, and even with some prospects who've reached out to me, that some people are saying, well, maybe this is an opportunity for me to rethink what I am doing, for me to identify things that may be working or things that may not be working. And seeing it as an opportunity. I think if you only see this as a negative, you'll always be down on yourself. And when you're down on yourself, it's hard to come out and portray a level of confidence and success and be creative. So, I think, people that do see this purely as a negative, I think it's important to understand that as hard as it is, one has to swing one's attitude around a little bit and say, okay, what positive can I take out of this negative? Where's the learning that I can take out that I can apply to my situation and enable me to come out of this stronger than when this thing happened, and it put me into a negative mindset.
Is there anything you do or that you've seen as valuable to do to sort of switch that mindset?
I think self-reflection. I think when you've got time to spend more time with yourself, I think you've got to ask yourself more questions. I've always said it's the questions that provide the answers, not the answer. Because if you haven't asked the question, you're going to be limited by the answers that you have. So if you jump to a conclusion and you haven't asked yourself that question, you may then realize that by asking the questions, you had 3 or 4 choices. But if you don't ask the question and you jump to the one, it's like you only know what you know at a point in time. So you can make decisions based on what you know. The only way for you to find out what you don't know is to ask questions or to have someone else ask questions of you. Then you can create a different perspective that may give you greater choices to make better decisions. And, you know, when you think about that, every single decision a person makes in buying a product, they go through multiple steps. Okay. And I talk to my clients about sort of the whole idea of AIDA, AIDA. Every decision you make will be awareness, interest, desire, and action. When you buy a house, that process of going through those 4 steps may be a few months long. When you're standing at a checkout and you're buying a packet of gum, that happens in milliseconds. But you will still go through those 4 phases.
Awareness, interest, desire, and action.
Yeah. And so to be in an action mode and not go through awareness, interest, and desire means you've missed out on finding out things you don't know about. And so instinctively we go through that, but some of us sort of don't really realize it. And when it comes to business decisions, it's not the bubblegum process. It's more buying of the house process. It's more thought-provoking, or it should be more thought-provoking. It should be a deeper dive into what am I doing, what other people are doing, what could I be doing. Let me speak to someone I haven't spoken to for a long time and just ask them this question, see what they say. Because boy, I may learn something that I didn't know that'll add to my experience base upon which I draw to make my decisions. So for me, as you know, I doing work at the strategy level, and it's not only at marketing strategy, but it's at business strategy level. Things change so fast that you need to continue your learning process all the time in order to be able to make better decisions. And if you shut that learning out, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
So a couple of things on that. The questioning process, especially when it's a bigger decision, right? As you said, if you're buying a pack of gum, go for it. If you're,
there's no real downside.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm fond of asking those questions and then waiting. And so I think what a trap that a lot of us get into is when you ask a question, you feel like you have to answer it right away. And our brain doesn't work that way.
That's the whole just do it mentality we're in today, that we weren't in 10, 15, 20 years ago because the world wasn't as fast. So we had time to make, to draw in some of those experiences so that we could add to our experience base. But today, with the advent of the internet and stuff like that, you know, most people feel they're forced. We've got to make this decision, okay? can't wait another minute. We can't wait another day or another month.
So
the consequences of that in business are unlike the consequences of buying the wrong pack of gum. They're very different.
Right. Now I'm gonna argue a little bit against that in a moment, because I think there is a good opportunity to take action. I think we hold ourselves back sometimes from moving forward, not because of consideration, but more because of fear of judgment and stuff like that. So before we get there though, let's keep going on this questioning, because the questions, I think, are, as you said, these are the questions. I think it was Tony Robbins says the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. So asking questions, wait. Just because you don't have the answer and you feel like it's negative, there's no way I can survive this. Ask yourself the question, how do I survive this? And just because you got there's a no way doesn't mean your brain is finished answering that question. Don't answer it right away. Give it a day, go for a walk, do those sorts of things. Because this is a big question. Like, how do I do this thing for my whatever business? And then when you get a solution or ideas or whatever, I like the idea of the opposite question. What am I missing? Yeah. I also like the idea you're talking about, call somebody up. Who do I know that's done this before? Or who do I know that could help me out with this? So you start forming these questions around this sort of sizable decision. I know for myself, I like to keep my own counsel with big decisions, and it has not served me. It really has not served me. And I've been changing that slowly over the years as I've unbelievably slowly matured. So I tend to ask a little bit more questions, and I tend to ask questions of other people more so. Yeah, before we move on, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think the one, just to add to that, and I understand that thought process. I think there's another thing we should never forget. As an individual, each and every one of us is unique, and so leveraging our own uniqueness is not something we should ignore. So by taking our own counsel, that's bringing our own unique perspective to it. And sometimes people will look at you and will say, what rock did you climb under or climb out of? Because your answer to a particular issue or perspective is so different to theirs. That's what makes each and every one of us unique. So what I'm not saying is ignore your own instincts. What I'm saying is add information and knowledge to your instincts and then make your decision. It should never be someone else's decision. It must always be yours, because you can't point a finger after you've made a decision and say, he made that decision, because the consequences lie with you. You can't blame someone else for the decisions you made. So you've still got to utilize your own uniqueness, your own instincts, because that's what makes. I find it hysterical to some degree when I sit with a potential client and they say to me, well, have you done this in our industry before? And sometimes the answer is yes, but often the answer is no. And I know why they're asking the question, because they want someone who's done it before. And I say to them, well, if that's already been done in your industry before, and I'm an expert in your industry, I'm going to tell you everything that's been done in your industry. So how am I going to add value with out-of-the-box thinking if all I do is operate within the confines of this industry? The added value for you is having someone that can bring ideas from outside the industry and throw it on top of your understanding, your expertise, your uniqueness, and say, can we create something that's never been done before? Because that's going to make you unique in your industry and make you more desirable as long as it's relevant to your customers. So no, don't ever lose what's unique about yourself in the process of that decision making, because that's where you'll really have the edge if you get that decision right. Okay,
so I'm going to tell you about an instinct that's screaming in me that I am, this is actually why this show exists. And so the instinct that's screaming in me, and I'm going to ask for your perspective, right? Because you're a marketer, we've known each other. What's screaming in me is, this is a unique time in history, at least in my history, in terms of the ability to get in front of people and to gain awareness and to, if you've got the quality and you've got if you've got something of value, for them to think something of you, likely positive. In that, you have an unbelievable amount of people online paying attention. You have an unbelievable amount of businesses that are like, I am scared right now. I'm pulling all of my funds from advertising. I can't see how I convert. A ton of businesses that were actually in the, I'm going to spend $1 on advertising, I expect right away to get $2 transaction. So it's a return on investment that's measured in day, weeks, minutes, not brand awareness, anything else. It's all of that at the AIDA. It's all at the end, action. I'm going to spend money when there's action to be had, not desire or interest or awareness. And so my instincts are telling me this is the time for awareness. This is the time for advertising done in a certain way, but this is a time for a unique time for gathering attention. And so, like, when we look at the advertising figures, like they're a 1,000th of what it cost per impression 2 years ago in some platforms. So with that feeling, with that thought, that instinct, what would you say to me, Neville?
I think that the question to be asked is, who's my audience? Who's my potential customer? And what's their state of mind? I think in these times right now, one needs to be careful that one is not seen to be attempting to take advantage of a situation, because I think one's credibility that has much more long-term impact could be affected. I do think it's an opportunity if you have valuable knowledge and information to share, and very often to share for free right now, because you're in an educational mode. And if you do it for free, you're not going to be seen to be taking advantage, because, like you rightly say, a lot of people are not spending because they have no incomes, or they have limited incomes. So I think there's a very fine line to walk, and one has to really look carefully at who one's customers are and what's their state of mind. And it's hard to judge that, and perhaps you need to be speaking to some of your customers or potential customers and ask them these kinds of questions. I don't think there's a right and a wrong answer with this. I see, the Facebooks and the Googles and all the media channels, whether it's specialty channels or online channels or just general advertisers, giving all sorts of special deals, trying to get people to come back and advertise, even though, from their perspective, all they want is the advertising dollars, and the guy doing the advertising wants the return on investment. The guy doing the advertising better be asking the question, what are my odds of getting back the return on investment? Just because it's easy to spend money on Facebook advertising and Google advertising and any other advertising. Why am I doing it at this moment in time? What's my return on investment going to be? And to be careful not to get caught up in that. There are opportunities where businesses that have never been focused online actually could do a very good job educating people online and actually being paid to do that if their audience feels that there's value in learning those kinds of things. So there are businesses that I think could not take advantage, but could benefit from it. You just look around how many online grocery stores or online delivery services that have never done deliveries. They're actually providing a valuable service and people will pay for that. So there's a time and place for everything. Never say never. Try, but be very careful at the way you try now, because I think these things could come back to bite you if they're done in a way that is insensitive. I recently wrote a blog, and the thing that I put on the blog was, because it's, I used Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we've all reverted back to taking care of our basic needs right now, right? Food and safety, and really that's it. Well, that state of mind is in a very different place than someone who's trying to self-actualize. And so one needs to recognize that state of mind.
On that note, we've got a really good question in from Caesar on Facebook. Hi, I'm in the events and wedding industry as a caricaturist artist. Any advice right now when people are canceling and moving their events in terms of what to do next?
I think you want to take that. Yeah.
I think it's, we know that, weddings and events are not going to be happening. But are there ways you can bring your skills to bear through some kind of online application that has never been done before? So there's two things. Number one, stay in touch with your clients, because when things do come back, anyone who's still top of mind awareness is going to get the business. And if you don't stay top of mind, someone else is going to usurp your position there. And number two, look to how else you can utilize your skills in a way that may never have been done before. And that's why you've got to speak to other people and say, what do you think I could do with my services? What do you think I could do with my skills? You never know what you're going to hear. And it may not be something that you've thought of before. Someone may say, have you ever tried this, or have you ever tried that? Well, there's the learning. There's the asking of the questions. There's the finding the niche that you've never been able to see because you've never gone looking for it. Now you're forced to go looking for it. Maybe there's a niche there that may be of fantastic value for a market. Could it be teaching kids caricature skills in an online school? I don't know. There's an idea. Is it a good idea? I don't know. But can someone build on that idea to make another idea, which in turn makes a third or fourth or fifth idea, which is the one that resonates? It's only when you go through those questions do you start seeing those opportunities arise.
Oh, and just a follow-up from Caesar. Thank you for the answer. I'm doing live caricatures by Zoom right now, just starting out.
Awesome. Now, actually, Neville, for this, I want to connect two things that you said, which is one, what's the ROI on certain things? And two, you know, the opportunity and the feeling of opportunity, I know can feel opportunistic, right? But I think with Caesar, there's an opportunity to do what you're talking about, which is when there's an opportunity, I think sometimes it's how you do it that shows it whether or not it's opportunistic or not. Meaning, so for Caesar, I would do exactly what you're talking about, which is stay connected with your people. Offer, you know, hey, let's do a virtual wedding, or let's do the bridal shower now online, and I'll get on with Zoom. And it's give, right? So, and in that give, what you're doing is you're creating an ROI that's longer. But there's a message of awareness, of brand. There's an opportunity for awareness, which is wide. I would even go, this is where the opportunity part of me says, I would like advertise, hey, are you getting married, or we're about to get married and you're not able to get married anymore, or something, whatever those different fits are. I'm giving this away for free to the first 100 people. And it can be just to the first 100 people. Like one of our most favorite stories that we had was a store in the East End of Toronto on Danforth, Urban Studio, gave away 2 cans of paint for free. No questions asked. Just give us your address. Tell us what colors you want. We'll drop off the paint in front of your door. And they do painting. They're literally taking work away from themselves because they do the painting. But we've talked about urban studios, you know, not 100 times, but at least 10 times.
A couple of times.
A couple of times. So I say for Caesar, in his industry, try out a give, especially if you have time now. If you can boost it with Facebook and on Instagram stories and just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I think that the give part of what you're talking about, Neville, shows that this is a passionate from the heart. It's not going to necessarily be seen as opportunistic. It can also be, I've seen it being done as a donation based, as in, I'm going to do this free Zoom educational thing, whatever it is, or event, and pay what you can after. Or I've actually heard it, pay what you think it'll be worth before. You have 2 choices.
And there's another twist to that. Don't pay me, make a donation. Here's an organization that I think you should make a donation to because they need it right now.
And so this is where my instincts of, this is such a good time for awareness right now. Caesar's brand could go through the roof because he's a good guy. I actually know Caesar. This is awesome that he's watching. So good to see you, Caesar. He's a good guy. And his heart's in it. That's one of the reasons why he's in this industry. He does really good stuff. So a give that just spreads and just says, I know this is tough at home. You need a little bit of joy. Let me do a caricature for you. Thing in the world, I think.
Just a quick heads up. We got 2 minutes left to wrap this up.
Actually, we're supposed to be 15 minutes only, Neville. But you've been so good. I know.
I've got a lineup at my door, and I've got a conference call in 5 minutes that I have to still prepare for. So,
One last thought I just want to add in here quickly, because I feel like when I first thought of caricatures, my first thought is it's very visual, and people love to see behind the scenes, like how do you make it? And so my first thought was using your phone with like a time lapse or a hyperlapse feature and show people behind the scenes. This is how I do a caricature, and like speed it up so it's 10 times speed or whatever it is, so people can kind of zip through it, but have that kind of visual give of, here's how I make caricatures. And again, just put that out on Facebook, on Instagram, and people will love that kind of stuff. And the next thought I had is perhaps perhaps you could just reach out to people as a Facebook profile photo. You could offer to do a caricature. Hey, I'll give you a free caricature or whatever it might be. Just, you know, tag me that I did this for you, right? And just, again, offer people caricatures, just
Nice
as
idea.
Brent was saying,
Like that
of
idea.
awareness of getting your name out there.
Actually, it could be like a stay-at-home caricature or something else like that. Very quickly before you go, Neville, second thought is that's very TikTok worthy. I've not yet seen caricatures, hyperlapse caricatures on TikTok. I think it would go wild, especially if you put some good music behind it.
Yeah.
Whatever
exactly.
appropriate music behind it. And right now, just get awareness. Your sales are going to come later when the events come back. I love, Neville, what you're saying is maybe there are sales to be had now because there's a different service that you can provide. I see no problem with going for an exchange for money. A lot of people actually do want to support, especially small businesses. But yes, be very, very, very cautious in what looks opportunistic versus taking opportunity of a situation with heart. Like center yourself with your heart. Say, what is it? What does the person that I am selling to, trying to engage with, where are they at? If they're right with you, awesome. If they're not, you need to go to where they are.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So Neville, thank you so much for this. That was COVID Marketing episode number 23. The show to support small biz, not just to survive, but to thrive. Weekdaily at 11:11 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us, Neville, and all of our very important people in the internets. Take care.
Last couple of shout outs here. TM Madi says, great idea. David Blackmore says, trading caricatures for music could happen. You got this. And last note from Caesar, great, thank you. Nice to hear another point of view. So thank you for everybody for your questions and your comments.
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.